Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Head in the Cloud, Heart in the Community. We are so excited to be back with our first episode in 2023. We had a bit of a break, so we are extra excited to be back here with our special guest, which Holly's going to introduce in a little bit. Another quick, very important update. As you might have known, up until now, Holly and I were always talking about our virtual journey, how excited we would be on the day we meet. We can tell you we saw each other twice in person in Europe in the past few months. So let's continue that spirit for the upcoming year as well. So, anyways, my name is Isidora. I'm a Microsoft MVP based in Switzerland. And let's head over to Holly to introduce herself and our community queen that's joining us today.
Hello, everybody. I am literally, I'm just so excited to be doing this again with one of my closest friends, Isadora. My name is Holly Lehman. I am proud to say I am a product marketing manager on Microsoft Teams. I also own the What's New in Teams blog, and any possible community event I can get my hands onto, I raise my hand because I'm all about it. That said, within my network, and if anyone knows, I am so proud of being in a Women in Tech network. I had the opportunity to make a new friend, and I think she's pretty awesome. And if you don't already know her, I bet you will after this show. Her name is Heather Newman Cook, and I am so proud to have her on the show today. She is a powerhouse in tech. She used to be an MVP, and now she is a woman in tech running a team of individuals that are powerful in the community. She is a principal group program manager sitting in the engineering platform world. And I'm so excited, Heather. I can only do such a good job introducing you, but you do an amazing job because we do know you are a theater major. So go for it, Heather.
Jazz hands, everybody, jazz hands. Yes. Thank you so much to both of you for having me. This is so exciting. I love your podcast. I love your relationship on it. It's so cool. So thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. I've been Heather Newman for a long time, and I am going back to Heather Cook, which is my maiden name, so that's what's going on with that, where you're like, what's her name? But yeah, so Heather Cook, I was at for the first 24 years of my life. So going back is kind of interesting, but I definitely run a lot of programs. I get the privilege of doing that for our Power Platform and Dynamics 365 community. So I work in the C+ AI group. So that's Cloud and AI, which goes up to Scott Guthrie. And then Charles Lamanna is our Corporate Vice President of Business Applications and Platforms, who is super awesome. I love working for him and his division and all of the leadership team, and then everybody else inside of Microsoft, and then all of you outside of Microsoft who use the products and who are sharing and working with each other and answering questions and doing all the cool things that community does for each other, running events and all of that. So I get up every day, and having been a community member for about 20 years in the Microsoft ecosystem, I use really good moisturizer. And then I get to do that now inside of Microsoft. And that's about, it'll be 3 years in June since I took this job as a full-time employee again. It happened right at the beginning of COVID. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather, for your introduction. And yeah, when we think about community, of course, you are definitely also on that list, being a true community queen yourself. Like you mentioned, over 20 years you have been building communities. So just to go back to that topic, what are some of the communities you're currently working with, and what is the importance of community to you?
Sure. As far as Microsoft goes, I have always a vision in my head, and I have for many years, of a one Microsoft community. So to me, you can be an Azure person, or in DevDiv, or SharePoint, or basically if you're using Microsoft products, to me, you're part of the community, if you will, right? So and there's a lot of us internally at Microsoft that have the privilege of working on community every day. So my team's focus is in, we call it BAP, Business Applications Platform. And so that is all of the products of the Power Platform, and then also Dynamics 365, all the apps that are there as well. So we've got, that's my wheelhouse and my realm. But the cool thing is that because we have, Jeff Teeper, who's president, the collaborative apps and platform, where Holly, where you sit, is that, Jeff and Charles really, have done such a great job of like getting together at community events and our larger events, telling that collaborative apps story, that connected better together story. So I get to do a lot of really cool things with the Microsoft 365 team, which is where I grew up, because I started when there is this little, thing called Tahoe, which people are like, what's that? Well, that Tahoe was the code name for SharePoint. And so I started in 2001 helping build community. I was an FTE for a little while, and then I was a vendor for a long time. And I literally helped write the first 120 case studies for SharePoint. And then I ended up deleting them on accident. And so the reason that SharePoint has a recycle bin, you're very welcome. So yeah, that's completely true. I ran into the lab going, I'm going to get fired. But yeah, so to me, the building community is really about listening to the community, what they want, what they need, the support that is being looked for. And I don't know, for me, community is like family, because I have so many beautiful, tight, close friendships from 20 years of, when going to events and, helping push people on stage and handing out speaker shirts and, setting up executive meetings. And so I was an event producer for a long time for Microsoft. That was kind of my career trajectory. And you said I was a theater major. I'm a producer at heart. I love producing things. I love creation. I love creating stuff with other people. So I'm wicked collaborative too. Sometimes maybe overly, but I really, that let's put on a play kind of mentality to me is where my heart lies. And also belonging is the other thing. Community is about belonging to something greater than yourself, where you feel like you belong, where you have support when things are awesome, and then when also things suck. So yeah, that's what community means to me. La familia, and a place where we all belong. For sure.
And I love that. And I appreciate you have made me always feel like I belong. And thanks to you, you've really shown me what true mentorship and allyship looks like. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I would have never had the opportunity to travel with you and have the experience to see Izzy for the second time in person and really
thanks, Heather.
Got to tell my story. And, so all of our voices matter. And so I'm curious for you, like, what does mentorship mean to you, and how have you been impacted for being on my end of it at one point in your life?
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm wonderfully so happy that you had that experience. So y'all know this probably, but maybe not, but Holly keynoted a Women in Tech lunch at the European SharePoint conference, and she was amazing. And it's a long line of people who have done that. I got to do the first one, which was a huge honor. And Caruana, Timu, and Donna Sakar, and many other folks, Miri Rodriguez, and now you. So it's just awesome to,
all these ladies have been on our show, just to add to that.
Yep. Every one of them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, it's the rising tide lifts all boats, I think. It's, I talk a lot with those ladies. They're all friends of mine. I consider them friends and colleagues, and we give each other work and jobs and opportunities and all kinds of stuff. And that's something to me that's super important about really curating deep relationships with people too, especially with what we've been through. And we were talking earlier about the screens, and, when's the moment when we actually have a chance to talk to each other, not the back-to-back meetings and I've got to go to the bathroom and I need some more coffee and all of that stuff, but like the conversations that frankly we just had before we got on the camera. Yeah. And first of all, thank you both for that, by the way. So yeah, so I don't know, to me, for mentorship, I've had many mentors in my life, many, and sometimes, it's for a short amount of time. Sometimes it's, ongoing. I think for me, Nancy McSherry Jensen was the person who gave me my first job around Microsoft back in the day. And she's always been a mentor of mine, and she's got a couple of years on me, and she's, was at Microsoft early. And so she's been somebody that I talk to constantly about my career and about, just things that I've wanted to do. I have one now. I have mentors kind of in Microsoft, outside of Microsoft, different ages, different, places. because I think that's important. Perspective is really important because you get inside your bubble, you know. And then, you know, all you're hearing is yourself and that other person who may not have those bigger perspectives about kind of just about life, you know, and career. But Nancy really helped me in that, you know, I think I finished that case study job quickly, much more quickly than she expected. And she basically was like, well, do you want to do this? And I just kept saying yes. And she was like, keep saying yes and you'll figure it out. You know, like I didn't know everything about marketing and at that time. But it was about being encouraged by someone and given the chance, honestly. Do you want to do this? Sure. And half the time I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out. You know, like I was like, okay. So I feel like I got a very serious education as well. You know, I started at Microsoft when I was 30. And so 20 years later, you know, I've had the ability to do all kinds of things. And so my well-roundedness, I think, comes from that. And also the fact that my production heart, you know, like whatever it is, you want, you know, a pink elephant in Times Square. Okay, I can figure that out. I mean, like, it might take me a few hours, but, you know, like, and then the confidence that comes from doing those things so that you are willing to say yes, that has definitely come from mentorship. And then I learn a lot from being a mentor as well. You know, that's, again, another perspective of, you know, someone who is going through something that you may have gone through before that you can maybe, you know, give some wisdom to, or at least just a path, or just listening. Sometimes holding space for people to be afraid, to have moments of fear, to be upset, you know, those are all super important. So for me, mentorship is huge. I bug my team about it all the time. I'm like, okay, how many mentors do you have? And, you know, what are you doing? Are you talking to them? Are you, you know, like, it's almost to me like I'm a big fan of therapy, frankly, as well. And so, you know, I think self-care and mental health is really important. And so having mentors, therapy, you know, meditation, all those good things, put them on a checklist, you know, in my book.
So yeah, indeed, also through mentorship, you get to talk to a lot of people around you. And there's also, we saw another way that you get to talk to people. So you run your own podcast. Maybe Holly quickly wants to stand up so you can see her beautiful shirt she's wearing.
I never wear a t-shirt like for a work event, but I had to today because I'm very proud of this shirt.
So yeah, you have Mavens Do It Better. You have with over 100 episodes online, sharing stories of extraordinary experts. So what I would love to hear is just quickly a bit more how you started your podcast, but mainly what's the biggest lesson learned where you compare yourself between episode 1 and episode 100, where you basically come with 99 episodes of experience.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. Yeah. You know, it was kind of, I would say 3 or 4 years ago now. And it was just sort of, I don't know, podcasts still, even at that time, were still fairly new. You know, it was, not everybody had one. And so I got really inspired by listening to a lot of the sort of the tech podcasts that were out. I think, you know, I'll say CJ and AC. So Chris Johnson and Andrew Connell, their MS Cloud show I really loved. And so other folks sort of in our space, the tech space podcasts. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. And actually, I worked at a radio station back in college, KUKN, Cook and Country.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, and KLOG. It was in Longview, Kelso, Washington State, which was down in the south part of the state. My dad managed the JCPenney store there, and I worked there and, you know, did PSAs and all of that stuff. So I've always, you know, radio and entertainment and all that have always been part of my life. So the podcast, I just thought, you know, I could do that, you know, that, and I love telling people stories and talking to people. So I literally started like asking everybody and getting equipment lists and figuring, you know, things out. And you know, my marketing business, Creative Maven, you know, I've had that for about 13 years, and it's been all kinds of things. It's, you know, it was marketing, and then it was event production. I went to marketing again. It's been a publishing house. It's like, it's something that I own, that I will always own, most likely, right? That's mine, that I use for different things that I'm doing. And I really, the word maven, I've always thought it was a super sexy word and super kind of fun to say. And maven, like you said, it means expert. It's in Yiddish, it literally means self-proclaimed expert. And I found it in Malcolm Gladwell's book a long while ago. And it's one of those funny things where I was like, yeah, you know, people who are experts in their field. And my interests are kind of all over the place too. Like I love music and theater and art, and you know, I want to be a museum docent when I'm an old lady. Like that's totally what I want to do, right? Like I want to be like, you know, let's talk about the Mona Lisa. But anyway, I wanted to share stories, and so so I started the podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I started out with a handheld Zoom microphone that I would like sit between people because it started before the pandemic, and so you know that was my first foray into it, and so it was just audio. And then I started adding equipment and watching what other people were doing, and started using StreamYard, or I used Zoom for a bit, or I started using Audacity and trying to figure out all that kind of stuff. So it was just one of those. I'm a very curious person too. Like when I love labels of things, and so I love art on like a mustard jar, a squeezy jar or whatever. So yeah, so I just started doing it. I think. I also like the conversationality of a podcast, kind of like having a conversation too, and so I wanted to make it like that instead of having it be super scripted. So yeah, from the first one, I think the audio is probably terrible. Like we all have like oh no. I think the first one, if I remember correctly, I think it's Agnes Molnar. It's either Agnes Molnar from Search Explained, or it's Tracy O'Connell, who used to run the European SharePoint conference. Those I can't remember now. You might know or have it up, but those are my first ones, and those were on site at events, and so there's like stuff going on in the background and everything. So audio got better, and I think I just got dropped into having conversations with people, and I think doing a good job of drawing stories out, of figuring out like how to get to the questions that would, one, make people feel at ease and have, not like, hey, let's get them to do a zinger or something that's going to make them upset, but more about feeling comfortable sharing, and I think throughout the whole thing, I had maybe one where someone was like, oh, and of course, I was like, okay, yeah, we don't put that out, like all good, or we'll redo it or whatever, so I think just it's confidence, it's rehearsal, it's like, actors don't go out on the stage a lot of the time unless it's improv or something like that, but you rehearse, right? So I think that doing it over and over again gives you that confidence, and also there's a technical part of it too, right, which you have to master or get good at as well. So yeah.
Well, we are happy to have you on the show today, but after this, we are always open to feedback on how we can improve, our end-to-end experience for our, for the people that are our guests, because we look at you as very special. So always up for feedback.
One thing, I haven't done an episode in a year and a half, so
this is your motivation to pick up.
Well, it's coming back. And I don't know the date yet, but yes, definitely the motivation for it. And it's been something I've been thinking about. And I got to say, I'm missing it. I miss it. It's one of those things that I love doing. I love it. I love going, you, can we do a podcast? You're unbelievable. You just blew my mind. Like literally most of the podcasts came from that. I saw something, I read something, I saw a tweet, I went to a performance, I was with somebody. Like literally, if you look at and you're like, how did she pick guests? It's literally people that blow my mind. Like that, I'm just like, you are so amazing. I need you to. I want to tell your story, kind of thing.
That's why we have this show, Heather.
Yeah, and it's also the same passion that we have for community, like telling people stories, because people think I don't belong in tech, and we're like, but you actually do. Like we have bakers, we have theater, we have dancers, we have writers, we have that. So that's how this got started. So not only do we want to tell people stories, but we are also head in the cloud. So
Yeah.
we also like to touch on the technical component of everyone's life. And right now, yes, we know AI is top of mind, and we're always talking about how we're incorporating AI into the new Teams enhancements and features. And I'm going to talk about that at my next meeting. But I know that Power Platform is also something really top of mind.
Yeah.
We've had Luis Frison, who is a huge Power Platform advocate. And I think people are kind of like, do I try it? What's it about? Low code, no code? Like, if you were to give a few features that you're like, this is why you should try it, or here's how it's bettered my world, I would love for our audience to hear those fun tips and tricks.
Absolutely. I gave a talk at El Camino Community College, which is a local college here, and it was about the future of digital transformation. And I said the words Chat GTP and some of the, OpenAI and all of that, and I could see their faces kind of going like, oh, okay, like explain. That was my Dalek explain from Doctor Who. Anyway, so and in getting into that, yeah, it's a whole new world, especially over the last couple of weeks. Everything just went right. For me in Power Platform, again, we'll have the GTP3 and all of that. So in Power Platform as well, that's already been happening. But the thing about Power Platform that I love, and when I was an MVP, it was SharePoint, Office, my favorite, OneNote, and all of that, and Teams. And then I kind of really came into being a Teams SME for other teams at Microsoft back a few years ago. And I love building things. I am not a pro developer, but I build stuff. I'm an architect, and I've been that for a long time. And I work really well with developers because I get the language and all of that, and I get to do all the big like, can it do this and how do we do that and da da da, and that gets translated into, oh yeah, we use blah 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 blah, and I'm like, oh yeah, that da 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 da, and we rock it out together. The community success team for BAP that I get to run, it's a business, just like any other business unit. Yeah, it's Microsoft, so we have the privilege and perks of a business inside of Microsoft, but it's still a business. And so I have a budget. I have my team, and so I have HR things to do. I have repetitive business processes that I need to do once a month that my team needs to do. So we have communications that need to go out. So should we write something in Word once and then attach it to an email and send it to somebody else to edit and then somebody else to approve it and all of that? No, we use Power Automate, and we use SharePoint and SharePoint lists, and we use Teams. And so we are dog fooding, like everybody likes to say, which is where you eat your own dog food before you send it out into the public. I like drinking your own champagne a little better. That's mine. Anyway. Yeah, first, but yeah, so it's to me, it's like using something like Power Automate to really automate those types of processes. Power Automate, literally just the release wave for Power Automate or for Power Platform and Dynamics 365 just came out. We release products twice a year. So that's as far as the big release wave goes. We do lots of features and stuff, some throughout, but the big ones are in April and October. And so we just did the release wave literally yesterday. And so in Power Automate now, there is a way to do approvals now. So you can actually automate that whole thing. And, I can send it to Holly and then send it to Isadora and then I send it to this person. And all of that can be automated instead of, having to like do an approval and check and this and that. So that's really exciting to me, because that's something that's important. Most people have to go through some sort of approval process in order to put something out into the world, right? I think also just there's so much going on in the space of Power Apps. Of managed environments is really exciting for people, and we've got the Center of Excellence as well. So these are places. So you've got managed environments, Center of Excellence, and then you also have a community, a collaboration site specifically for Power Platform. So what I love is that it's not, you have to go to this like giant enterprise solution or just like some small solution. There are steps, I think, to take different businesses through the journey of being in low code, no code, where if you want to start with Power Platform in your business, you can look at, and you're using SharePoint, most likely, or Microsoft Shop, where you can put the Power Platform communication site up to help everybody on their journey with that, right? So there's a lot of cool things that are about like starting out. I think in technology sometimes you like everybody knows everything down here and we're already up to low code 0.50. Well, there's a lot of people that are like, I'm just at like -6. Like, can you tell me what's going on with this thing? So what I do like is that we have the gamut of resources and information if you're just starting out still, which is just fine. Power Platform, those two words, they've only been together since 2019. That is not very long. We're still, in my opinion, kind of startup between in our journey as a business with lots of backing and history and everything, but like it's still new, So yeah, so those are a few of my favorite features. And I love Power BI dashboards and reporting for data. If I can't measure something, it's a problem because, when you're trying to get budget or resources or approval to go forward with something, you have to usually have research and you have to have data behind the scenes. It's not just Heather says, although but like, right, it's like, hey, here's the proof points, here's the data, here's the research. And Power BI just makes it so wonderful to be able to have a self-service way to show people your metrics on a regular basis instead of let's go pull the metrics behind the thing and pull them out and put them in a spreadsheet and then make it look nice and stick it into an email and all that stuff. I got a dashboard and I pinned it as a that's amazing, right? Like that's huge. So everything being in Teams from Power Platform as an app is just awesome. So.
Yeah, and we totally appreciate that.
That's awesome.
So speaking, Heather, so you've been there, done that. You were a Microsoft MVP. You handed in the beautiful title for the Blue Badge.
Over there, up there. Yep. Yep.
However, one thing for me since I joined the MVP program is just the memorable moments I've experienced. Even though I'm a COVID MVP, if you can say that, I've never experienced an in-person MVP summit. So, ladies, please, here's just for my voice to be heard. Please internally talk to somebody. We want an MVP summit back in person. But yeah, just tell us, Heather. So in your time being a Microsoft MVP, what are some of your favorite memories that you will cherish forever?
Gosh, goodness. The moment I found out, I got the email. I'll tell you, it was, I was having a rough time, to be honest. It was a time in my life a few years ago where, note the name change, which means I cleared divorce. And I was having, I think that, you have bumps in your career. And I think at that point there was just, sometimes it's convergence. Like all of a sudden, like every client you had is like, sorry, we're going to go do something else. And you're like, what? There's like that weirdly happens sometimes with life. And so that moment that I found out, I was in a pretty low place. And what was wild about that moment as well, it was the February 1st. And I had been at a friend's house and I ended up spending the night because we had stayed up late talking. And I picked up my phone and I had gotten the MVP award. A client that hadn't paid me in 3 months that I'd been harassing literally to get paid sent me their invoice. And I got 2 new clients asking for things. I don't know what happened that February 1st, but so it came at a really great time and it was really a huge honor. And it was one of those moments that I was just like, I got to breathe for a moment because money was tight and things were happening and so like all of those things kind of in the I can tell you exactly what I was doing, sitting, what I was wearing when that happened. And it was a really important moment that people, I don't tell people about that so often.
I know exactly how the moment feels and felt and
it was a good moment. And then, it is MVP being an MVP and going to MVP Summit in person in Seattle is a big thing. And it's hard that it hasn't been for a while. More to come on that soon.
Is
By
there
the way.
something you could potentially share a little bit, or?
No, I can't, unfortunately, but just I'll put a good Cheshire cat smile on my face. How about that?
All right.
Yeah.
Then we will stay tuned and keep an eye out on the MVP award tag on Twitter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think for me, going to the summit, being around all the other MVPs, that was huge. That was wonderful. And then I got to present. I put together a presentation a year when we were doing speaking, like the last day, like the second half of the last day, and I think Lori Popmeyer, was in charge, and Allie, on the Office 365 at the time side, and they let me do a session called "What Burning Man Has Taught Me About Belonging," which is very close to my heart because I'm a burner. I've been going to Burning Man for, I don't know, close to a decade, and and that community is very much about leave no trace, radical self-expression, radical inclusion. All the 10 tenets, I think, are amazing, and so I took the 10 tenets and I talked about what being inclusionary and what belonging means to me, about participating in that city that gets built over 3 months and then exists for a week and is torn down again. It's sort of, it harkens to my theater heart, because you work really hard on something, right? And you put it up and it's awesome, and then you rip it down and it's over.
Heather, just to shortly interrupt you, maybe good for those who don't know what the Burning Man is. Do you quickly want to just explain?
Sure. Yeah. Burning Man is it's an experiment in putting up a city out in the middle of the desert, the Black Rock Desert, outside of Gerlach, in Nevada, in the United States here. And it's been going on for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, and people from all over the world come. It's a week long. And it's there's no commerce. The only thing you can buy there is ice, and coffee. And basically people create these giant art installations, and theme camps, and mutant vehicles that look like pirate ships and stuff. And it's a week-long celebration of art and music and life. And it's not like a festival like Life is Beautiful, or which is a great festival, or Coachella, in that you have somebody playing like Drake or that kind of thing. It's much more organic than that. But it's my favorite week of the year. And I took a big hiatus from it. I got to go in 2019 after 5 years of a break, and then I haven't been back since. And it was closed for the pandemic. But yeah, it's a gift economy, and it's just a really beautiful place of self-expression and art. So yeah, very cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if I would wrap this call, I think the 3 points that I've personally left with is how powerful community is, and that everyone should feel that they do belong. The power of mentorship, and just that tech can be fun and used across the board, no matter what your vertical or industry is. So I am grateful that we had you on the show. I thank you for all of your stories. And personally, I appreciate your genuineness and your ability to bring people along with you, and all the opportunities that you've given to not just myself, but to the community. So you are a beautiful human. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. I really appreciate it. So
yeah. And when you think of the heart, you immediately think of community love. Hashtag community love.
Yes, community love for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to get to do what I do every day. It makes me very happy, and I'm really very passionate about it. So it makes me excited. I get very emotional. I wear it on my sleeve a lot of the time. But that's what you got to do, right?
And for anybody listening that wonders why they should be an MVP, I would encourage you to rewind, listen to Heather's story one more time, and then go ahead and submit, because we need everybody out there to bring their passion and their skills and their strength. So Heather, thank you for having us today. Izzy, I love you. Thank you for doing this with me in 2023. Let's keep it going. And everyone out there listening, thank you for joining our journey, hearing our stories, and sharing your passion and love for the tech community. Until next time, bye everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care.